Welcome back, everyone, as we continue with this week's edition of Mr. Business, and we want to continue to take you through the overview of the fantastic financial literacy guidebook and toolkit, most importantly. So, as you do have some fantastic tools, just as a carpenter has his array of tools that can put up a house, we've given you some fantastic tools to help you with your financial house, the construction and sustainability therein. And so when we talk about the shoebox credit, heretofore what had been shoebox credit, now we put a 21st century capability into it with the debit card. Now, it has also been approved. One of the arduous things in this process and program was getting the approval and the legal opinions from FHA for mortgage origination. Okay. So that means if you use this financial widget and device to pay your rent for 10 to 12 months, you can use that sustained track record and consistent on-time rent payment for your FHA mortgage loan to get your dream home.
Okay, so I'm not stuck with just the traditional sources of credit reporting anymore.
Correct.
Wow, I love it. I love it. You know, and then when it comes to talking about getting our house in order,
right?
I'm not Mr. Business. I'm gonna call you just Biz, Biz for short. You know, we can't just use the card and spend. There has to be some order, if you will, I believe.
Certainly.
That we all must do when it comes to building that whole quality of life and that financial literacy level of sophistication, regardless of where you come from. I know people living on Easy Street who are having trouble budgeting just the same as those who live in more depressed areas. And I've been in contact with people who have said, well, I don't have any money to save. And the first question I ask them is, well, do you have a budget?
Right.
And the resounding answer is always, no, I don't.
Right, and that's one of the great things that we touch in this program and in this toolkit as we lay out and explain the traditional credit, then the alternative trade line reporting process that we've created and patented. But also, more importantly, the next step is to sit down, and in the book we give you a nice budget that you can go through, and it's different for everyone, certainly, but we put it in there so that you can get a handle and know that you're heading north as opposed to south with respect to whatever your income is, and that way you can create positive cash flow, because you don't know, if you don't have a map, that means you really don't know where you're going.
Exactly. I think one of the other things that we did in this book when it came to the budget was that we let you we ask you to track what your actual spending is, and then set what you think that budget should be. And granted, you find money. You start finding money. You might make $25 a week, but you may end up saving 20 of that 25. That's just an example, folks. I know we make a little bit more than $25 a week. and it also has you look at your surpluses and your deficits, and we're in hope that you'll eventually find those deficits will disappear and the surpluses will start to come, and that's when that whole savings conversation starts to happen.
Right. And then when you save, what do you do with it?
Exactly.
As you know, and as one of my great American cultural icons, Will Rogers, who I like to quote because he was ahead of his time, just like me. But moreover, he would always say, I'm more concerned with the return of my money than the return on it. So we need to look at safe, positive type investments, especially in this highly volatile economic and capital market environment. So that's one of the big things. But you have to have some money before you can worry about the return on it and the return of it.
Well, let me ask you this question also. Is there an age that is good, or that we target, where people should start saving?
Well, you know,
are you ever too young or too old to start saving?
Well, I mean, I would just say this. Now they've got this new product, My Baby Can Read. And so they're teaching babies to read, you know, at 6, 9 months old.
Right.
So with that, you'd have to think once a child can read, as soon as they're old enough to read, they're old enough to start saving. As a kid, I can remember saving as a first grader for the side items that I wanted. I would take my lunch money and put it aside, and not eat lunch or take a lunch. But anything not to spend that little money.
Right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, then you're never too young or old to start. You can start as soon as you can walk, talk, and count.
Right.
Is what I'm hearing you say.
Sure.
And you know, an example of that is for years having my own company, I had to have a budget. And being a single mom, you know, my budget was a lot more regimented than maybe most with 2 household incomes. And so my daughter and I, while we never wanted for anything, it was because we did have a budget. But I started her savings plan when she was 6 months old. Yep. And because of that, and putting a little away every time, when she graduated from high school, her college money was set aside for her in full. So she had her college money set aside because we saved. And, you know, all my life, people used to tease me that I didn't have a real job because I was self-employed as an entrepreneur. And, but they didn't realize that I was putting away and probably have more money put away than those who have, quote, real jobs.
Right.
And guaranteed income coming in every 2 weeks or once a month, however they get paid. So it's a discipline that we start to put in place, understanding that rainy days could come at any time.
Well, yeah.
But you also need to save for the sunny days too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what this financial literacy guide and resource guide is all about.
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah.
And again, when you look at the de and reculturalizing of America that happened coming into the credit card age and heavy consumer age, as the previous generation that had lived through the Depression and were of the mind that anything that if you can't pay cash for it, you can't afford it.
Right.
Whereas the next generation, we got into the leverage, live for, you know, the future is now. George Allen, wherever you are, coach, you've had an indelible impact on the American culture with that future is now philosophy. And so now we've got to turn the clock back and get back to discipline. And if you can't pay for it, then maybe you can't afford it.
Exactly.
And that's some of the things that we address in the financial planning segment of the course and guidebook. We talk about and get into the different options of financial planning, the insurance, term life insurance, whole life.
What about estate planning? I mean,
well, yeah, we touch on and get into estate planning, wills, trusts, which are not used enough in the Afrocentric community.
So many people believe that it'll all be taken care of, but if you don't leave the instructions,
no, if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And then also, I want to talk about one of the great things that we've embedded in the financial literacy guidebook, and that is some great resources. Okay, and if you will, we've got some books as you can take this course and go to the highest of levels in your evolution and we've got some great tools and reference materials in it, like this great work by Dr. Wiedemer, Aftershock. They call this multifaceted bubble in the capital markets, and this is the second edition that talks about some of the things to come and how one can protect themselves at the highest levels in their portfolio. So again, we give this book and our toolkit with multiple resources that you can go from a novice to the most sophisticated investor. Okay, and so with that, at the bottom of our screen, you'll find our coordinates on the internet, the website, the email, the phone number, and you can reach out to us with any and all of your questions, as we'd be delighted to help you figure out your financial puzzle. And with that, we're going to say au revoir till next time, as we will be back and continue with this topic in another special edition, because it's so timely and so pertinent and compelling. And again, au revoir.
Au revoir.